Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 of the Beyond the Red Door podcast. This is your co-host, Austin Dye, joined by.
I am Dominick, and we are also joined by our wonderful guest, Marc Young, who is number 5 on the scroll list, one of the very first members that we have to our very young chapter. And we are very excited to have you on with us. Marc, how you feeling?
Well, I'm a little confused because a lot of times I don't go by that full name. So anything fraternity or college related, it's always Barney. And so I'm sure there's a little bit of confusion amongst the watchers right now as well.
Yeah, you need to explain that because I'm sure I'm going to call you Barney throughout this whole episode. And we were talking with some of the guys yesterday, and you've told the story to some of us. Like, I think I've been told the story, but there's a lot of people that are like, yeah, why is he called Barney? Like, we have no clue. We just hear it all the time. And then they add you on Facebook or something. It's Marc Young. So why don't we start off by talking about that so we don't get people confused?
Well, it's almost like a fish story. You know, the guy goes out and catches a fish and he's like, you know, it was this big, you know, or it's like, every time he tells the story, the fish gets bigger and bigger. And it's like, man, every time I hear about this Barney, it's like the legend grows bigger and bigger. But it's like over the years, it's like the story has changed to what I thought. And actually, one of the undergrads brought it up and I told the story. I'll get to it in a little bit. But I had to pause for a little bit and think, is this actually right? So I reached out on Facebook. I got a couple of the older guys that were on my wing in Brockert when I came to college. When was that? 1994. Yeah, I know.
We weren't going to say it, but I mean, might as well drop the date.
It's only before I was born, you know?
Right, exactly. So I had to reach out to him and I'm like, you know what? I don't know if I'm getting this story right. Why do I have this nick? And so he replied back and he's like, well, it was because you were wearing purple shoes. And I said, well, that would make sense if I actually had purple shoes, but they were yellow. So that blows that all out of the water. All I can tell you is when I was a freshman, there was actually still a senior. I think he was a senior on my wing, and they all called him Marc. That was his name. So they couldn't have two Marcs on a wing. They're like, hey, freshman, you're going to get a nickname. I came to college. One of the things I wanted to do was experience college life, and part of that is partying. House parties, that whole thing. So the first time, a group of guys was like, hey, we're going to a party. Are you in? Yeah, I'm in. Let's go. And back in the day, I believe it was on Market Street, there was a little house. It was a purple house. Stay there. It was called Purple Haze. And I remember this night. It was a good time. So they're like, we'll come up with a nickname for you. I was out on the front porch and I was feeling pretty good. Probably smiling, laughing, having a good time. So one of the guys was like, okay, I got the nickname. We're going to call you Mr. Smiley. And
Smiley.
I don't know, man. It must have been really important to them to come up with this nickname. There must have been a lot of pressure. I don't know what it was. But a couple of the other guys were like, no, that's ridiculous. And I guess I should pause it there and then maybe just ask you, Austin, can you think of any particular famous Barneys?
I mean, there's obviously one big giant one that I can think of. Related to a dinosaur. So yeah, that's the only Barney that I can think of.
That's the only one that you can think of?
Yeah, I'm not any other Barneys. Dom, you can think of
any? I'm in the same boat as the big purple dinosaur.
Really? Okay, so
I guess there's Barney Stinson if you think about that. You ever watched How I Met Your Mother? There is a Barney there.
That's fair.
Oh, that's right. Isn't he the main character?
Like the secondary main character, I guess it's a group of people. Like
Okay.
its focuses around one guy, Ted, but Barney, I feel, is a part of it.
It's pretty
Yeah.
prominent.
What's that dude's name? He was Doogie Howser when he was a kid.
Neil Patrick Harris is his real name.
Neil Patrick Harris. Yeah. Yeah, I forget about him. But if you go way back in history, one of the Flintstone characters was named Barney.
Oh, that. Yeah.
I knew that. It's still related to dinosaurs, though. I mean, let's be fair.
There's Barney Fife from what was that? It was an old black and white show. Again, my memory and trying to remember things, but Barney Fife. And if you got your laptops in front of you, you could like be doing all this Googling stuff right now, right?
Was Barney Fife that police officer?
Yeah.
Andy Griffith's show?
Andy Griffith's show.
I'm gonna okay, good.
Hold that out.
We always watch that one thing about when he tries to read the preamble to the Constitution. We've always watched that in history class.
What? This is news to me, but yeah, continue.
We'll watch it later. But it's what every like different history teacher I've had has pulled that out of their pocket, and I have always seen that. I've seen it so many times, and I don't know how I remembered it, but I do. Thank you, every history teacher I've had.
There's one other Barney that kind of stands out to me, and he was the town drunk in the Simpsons cartoon. He was the guy sitting at the bar, and Homer would walk in, and there's Barney. You know, he'd been drinking since, I don't know, noon, maybe. And, you know, his words were pretty slurred, and, you know, he didn't really have a clue what was going on. I got to think that that's where that nickname came from, because, like I said, I was having a good time. I don't even remember leaving there, but I'm sure my words were pretty slurred. That's the only explanation I can come up with after all these years. But like I said, the story changes. I had the nickname prior to the fraternity, so it just kind of stuck. It was almost became like an alter ego, you know, kind of like Jekyll and Hyde sort of thing, you know. So
at night when you're partying, you turn into Barney.
Well, it's just when I'm on campus. It's just anytime I'm on campus. But it was in the classroom, you know, it was Marc.
I had to look up the Simpsons character, because when he started describing it, I was like, oh, I know who that character is. And it was the one I was thinking of, but I just never knew his name. It was just like always, the drunk guy at Moe's.
Hey, Barn. Yeah. So, you know, and then naturally, once I graduated and entered the workforce, I basically just, you know, I went by my name. It was my mother's it's the name my mom gave me. You know, and actually, I don't know. I think I may have, you know, kind of struggled with that. I mean, thank goodness I came back to visit, you know, as often as I did. You know, and even now, you know, it's pretty cool. So if any of the undergrads or alumni, if they call me Marc, it's, you know, it's just not right. It's Barney.
That's fair. Well, there you have it, folks. That's the story of the nickname that's been exaggerated so many different times, but there's from the horse's mouth.
as of today, like I said, it's going to change next week. So,
well, now it's in recording, so this is what people are going to be citing from now. It's going to be like episode 4 of the podcast. This is what Barney said.
This is now written in gospel. It is word. It is law.
Yeah. So you kind of hinted at it there, but like, let's talk about like how you got started with the fraternity and with Sig Up in general. So obviously, like, wasn't necessarily around before you got involved, and then it's just there. So why don't you talk about some of those like early day experiences, kind of how they roped you in, got you involved, and what came of it.
Yeah, it was pretty easy for those guys. I was kind of low hanging fruit. I'm not good with and I'm not good with dates, but like I said, I came to campus in 94, 1997. So my junior year, I believe it was the winter of 97. A couple of guys from headquarters came and they were looking to start a fraternity, started, seeing some advertisement around. At the time, I was considering joining a fraternity. And the main reason was to kind of be more involved with a group. I mean, I was happy with all my friends. I could have stayed friends with my entire wing. But I felt like I needed to branch out, and it was maybe in a way kind of resume building too.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do while you were in college? Well, all I did was study. Really? I mean, so you gotta start networking, and that's what happened my junior year. I can't remember if I called a number, or I know they had a booth in the old student center, and came by. I had some questions. I saw the no pledging, no hazing. Obviously with other fraternities, I didn't want to go through some of that stuff, so that really kind of piqued my interest. And then that logo, the Balanced Man logo, was just intriguing to me. I never seen anything like that before. So just started asking questions, and they were like, yeah, hey, we're trying to build a chapter and need as many guys as possible. And man, I mean, I was pretty much sold on this, and I went back to my wing, and I'm showing all kinds of guys, and coming back to those guys at headquarters at the table between classes. I'm like, hey, I got this guy, I got this guy, I got this guy. So they were just like, man, I can't, like, this guy's just out there, like, just recruiting all these people. So, once we got 10, 12, maybe we might have had 14 people, and decided that we were going to try this thing, they said, well, would you like to be our VP of recruitment? I mean, you basically just went out and got these handful of guys, kind of a natural for it. So, that was one of the first roles that I had with the chapter. Well, it wasn't a chapter back then. We were still a colony. So,
yeah. I mean, you literally just described it there. You'd be like the perfect fit. You just went and just started recruiting a bunch of people before you even fully knew what you were getting into. So,
how are the initial reactions when you came back to your wing? Were some of these guys like, who is this dude? Did he go nuts? Did he just get like recruited? What's going on? How'd that go out for everyone?
My wing was really interesting. We had, man, it just had all kinds of people that, some guys just stayed in their rooms. We did have other fraternity guys that were pledging. We had athletes, and we just had wing guys that, that's all we really hung out with. And part of my situation, I was in the dorm for 3 years, my first 3 years. So the first two, I mean, you really get to know these guys. You become a family, and you're like, hey, you coming back? And we lived in Brockard is like one of the farthest ones away. Who's going to want to live on the third floor, that far away? And, a lot of us came back. Again, it was family, but Scooter, I don't know, were you guys at the Dom? I think you were there when Scooter came to the house to speak in December.
Yeah, I almost missed it because of a work shift, but I got off, and I was able to like run to the house. Luckily, it was over in Felsey, so I only had to run across the street.
And he can tell the story better. I mean, I came running down to his room with that flyer in my hand, and he thought I was absolutely crazy. you know, we know you've been considering this. And I'm like, no, check this out. Like, they don't do these things. This is different, guys. You gotta understand this. Like, and you know, even to this day, I think it's still hard for the mentality to, you know, you think fraternity and you think keg party and you think, you know, womanizer and you think troublemaker. And, you know, it's not that they sold me on it. I saw what it was. I didn't think that there was any kind of wool being pulled over my eyes or any kind of deceit. Um, so for me to have that passion, you know, right away is, I mean, I still have it. I still have it. When the guys last 3 years needed interviewers for Balanced Man Scholarship, man, I tell you, it's so easy for me. The difficult thing is I don't have that direct connection. You know, hey, this is what's happening when you come to campus. And it's kind of like how you gotta like hand them off. It's like, well, I'm not going to be there, but these young guys are going to be there. They're much like you, but yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely say, like, from a recruitment standpoint, like that was one of the biggest things still, like you said, like just getting that mindset away from, like, I mean, this was what, 15 more years that, from when you were like recruiting people, and that's the mindset that's still in place. And so having to pitch it, I mean, SIGEP makes it easy, thankfully, with a lot of the stuff that we have in place, but I would agree that that's still a mindset that a lot of people carry for whatever reason. Obviously, popular culture doesn't help with that, but yeah, still there for sure.
Here, I'll try to show this picture here. Like I said, didn't know how to turn my camera around like we're doing this recording, but um, this top picture here was in Brockert Hall, and me, Scooter, um, Woj, and Grimes, Jason Grimes. Jason
Wow.
Grimes, he's in the tan-ish suit. He's the one that came up with our mission statement, you know, which is
Wow.
still used today. And he came up with it. I mean, in seconds. I mean, literally. But yeah, I mean, I I prepared. I have some props and whatnot just in case, you know.
We love that. We love it. I guess, like, so starting, like, obviously you're joining this fraternity that's just getting on campus. You're trying to charter. You said you guys started as a colony. Um, I guess maybe, like, we should explain that part more, because there's some people that probably don't understand how the process works with getting started on a campus. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, and then maybe just talk about some of the trials and, like, tribulations that you had to face, like the whole chapter had to face trying to get started, and uh, putting, like, a foot down on getting us going?
Yeah, and you know, I got to think about all the possibilities of alumni, volunteers, undergraduates that are potentially watching this.
Mhm.
Maybe all they wanted to know about was the Barney story, and then now they don't know what's going on the rest of this podcast. I mean, hopefully we're keeping it interesting here. Um, but it's probably difficult for a lot of guys, especially the newer ones, to even think about. I mean, first of all, not having a house. Okay,
Mhm.
maybe not. Not having any alumni. I mean, it's just you. Think of you as a freshman or a sophomore, and there's 10 or 12 of you, and Tom Barton. I mean, basically, Tom, you know, he spearheaded this whole thing. So, I mean, he was our go-to. I mean, if I remember right, I'm pretty sure he was involved in all of our meetings. Um, we had to branch out and find a chapter counselor. Um, you know, so you're just kind of piecing this all together. And I mean, you've got no funds, you've got no bank accounts. Um, the campus is already fully loaded with Greek life. And, how do you first of all, convince the campus that they need another one of these organizations? But again, it's the whole principle of what we stand for that set us apart. And we had some rocky times. I mean, we didn't get fully chartered until the year 2000. So you basically got to think 2.5 years, and they say, well, to become a charter, you got to have 40 guys. And you're like, what? I mean, we just got 12, and then we had to let 3 go because of grades, and then we got 5 more, and then we lost 4. So you're like slowly gaining one by one. And it's like, how in the world are we ever going to get to that magic number? How are we going to, and it's I really can't explain it, but it's just, I was there for a lot of those struggles. I mean, even me personally, I said I was the first VP of recruitment, but actually, if you go into the, I don't know what they call it, the president's box, when a president graduates or whatever, and then they pass it down. Part of what's in there, and I can't remember it exactly. Maybe it's is it a little chest or something? And there's a couple of little trinkets, and one's a roll of paper. And there's actually names on the roll of paper. I don't think a lot of people didn't realize that until, I can't remember who it was that came back, and I didn't even realize it. But on there, it has the very first president, Eric Twerberg, and it has the different positions on down the line. You get the VP of recruitment. You don't see Barney. You don't see Marc Young. You see John Heller. And I mean, I don't know, I was struggled. You get to a point where all of a sudden the pressure's on, and you can't do it. And they're like, well, let's get somebody else in here that can do it. So you're making these difficult decisions of jockeying people around, and where do you fit in? So
Yeah, I mean, I can't even imagine. I've been under some of the pressures with recruiting, especially during like BMS times when we're interviewing all these different people, and I'm sure every other BMS coordinator, every other VP of recruitment can also talk about it. But there's some tough times, but I couldn't even imagine like having that pressure on you to recruit that many people to this organization that's just starting up, and also at the same time trying to convince campus that you guys should be on campus as well.
yeah.
So one of the we kind of went out of order what we usually do, but kind of, so like you had kind of mentioned there that you kind of came back at some point. So you stepped away once you hit alumni for a little bit and then came back. Can you maybe talk about like what drew you back into the chapter, and maybe like why you left in the first place, if that's something that you also care to share?
Well, it's of course, as soon as I graduated, it's like, hey, I'm part of now the first alumni board. A couple of the guys moved far away, but I was in the Madison area, so especially not after the first year, but the second year when we had a little bit bigger class. And now all of a sudden we're like, okay, now we've got alumni, so we're starting to try to start the alumni board. So it's like I've always been part of the starting process, because of course that's how it's always going to be. But as you guys will find, and as some of the alumni have found, is you get into your career, you find a lovely partner that you want to spend the rest of your life with, and maybe you want to have kids, and all of a sudden your life just kind of goes. And so I think I still see it a lot, and you'll continue to see it, because some guys, they get a little bit burnt out after college, and so maybe they'll step away for a year or two, then they come back. Some guys are fully right into it. I think you probably see that with Dawson. As we go forward here, and some of the other guys, not to pick on anybody and not to point anybody out, but some of the guys, they'll say they move far away and they want to be involved, they want to do this, and then all of a sudden they realize, man, my career is really taking a lot of my time. I didn't think I'd be able to, and then they step away. So I mean, you're always going to see that to some degree. So what had happened is I kind of lost track of time, and when I wanted to come back and help out, I felt really uncomfortable because I didn't know anybody. I didn't know the chapter. I didn't know the undergrads. I know nothing. And now there's new alumni that I didn't even know. So it was pretty intimidating. And I'm like, man, I don't think I can do this. I think I'll just stay back here, and maybe I'll come to homecoming or a banquet or something. But I believe it was in 2018, and correct me if I'm wrong, Austin, but I think this was the year prior to you becoming VP of recruitment.
Yep. I remember I was just going through photos this week with a couple of guys, and we were talking about it. It was 2018. I think it was we were getting ready to do Relay for Life. That's what you guys came for.
Yes.
So
I don't know. I don't know all the different levels of how everything happened, because it kind of happened all kind of boom, boom, boom.
Mm-hmm.
But I got a call out of the blue from Steven Tusick. I can't remember what year he graduated with, but he lives in Cambridge. He's not far from Madison, and he's like, "Hey man, how you doing? I haven't talked to you in a while." And we started talking. He's like, "You ever hear anything from the chapter? Like, what's going on with the fraternity?" And no, not really. And he's like, "Man, doesn't that just bother you? That you started this thing, and now you can't do anything. You can't be a part of it." And he just I don't know, all of a sudden, whatever we were talking about, it sparked something inside of me. And I'm pretty sure I reached out to Brian BK Kirschbaum, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm pretty sure he was the president of the ABC, and again, I don't know exactly how the details went, but I said I want to get involved again, and I think there were elections coming up, and there were some trustee positions, and he's like, if you want to do that, you got to come down to Platteville and say why you want to be a trustee, and maybe they'll vote for you, maybe they won't. And I think I had like my son's football game or something that was going on that weekend. I couldn't be down there. He's like, "Well, it's probably not in your favor, but if you want, you could type something up. We'll read it on your behalf, and if they like it, they can still vote for you." So I did that, and lo and behold, I got in. I dragged along Jeremy Baker with me. Him and I basically came into this thing together in 2018. I can't believe it's been 4 years, but hey, we lost like 2.5 with COVID, so I don't know. But so then I think we came down in April, and we were just like, we're just gonna do this. We're just gonna go down, and we're just gonna meet guys. Like, what harm is it gonna come? I mean, we're in the same chapter. We're all brothers, and I mean, it was great. I mean, Austin and Dom and Jake, I mean, Jake especially. I'm trying to think of some of the other guys that, that all of a sudden, like, I had like a new kind of core, like a new nucleus. And like, I'll tell you, I went through it again. Like when all you guys graduated and now are alumni, it's like, ooh, I gotta, you gotta stay, constant with these guys. You gotta, go and visit or be a mentor or, you know, have some kind of connection. And my hope is, and that's really why I wanted to, I honestly feel honored that you guys wanted me to be part of this podcast. I mean, it was, Austin, you've been talking about it, I think, for 4 years, quite honestly. You're like, hey, what do you think if we did this? I remember having a conversation with you and you're like, I want to do this podcast. And I'm like, dude, let's do it.
It's been in the works for a very long time. Just needed the time to do it. But yeah, definitely. Go ahead.
I even got the idea when COVID was going on and we were doing this Zoom interview with the finalists for the BMS. Then a finalist would come in, we'd interview them, then they'd go and then we'd all chat. We'd all talk to me like, hey, what do you think? And then, I got the idea. I'm like, man, I think this would be something if we can record this, a Zoom meeting. And Zoom was new to me. I didn't know what you could do. And I approached Baker on it. I'm like, Baker, we should do like this podcast. We'll call it Baker and Barney, whatever. We'll just get on there and we'll just talk about stuff. And, it would come time, maybe we were going to try it. Something would come up and it just it never came to be. So I'm so thrilled that you guys are doing this. And here we are at number 4 and soon to be 44. So.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, this has been in the works for a while. I feel like I do recall having these conversations with you. I mean, you used to visit the house all the time when you were getting reacquainted and meeting a bunch of people. And like, I remember that first meeting that like we had with you guys. Like I said, we had gotten the like call from like Korberg, I think, at the time. And it was just like, hey, like, we've got 2 of like the founding guys coming in, and we were all like, oh my God, like we like this is a big moment. Like we need to make sure we're on our best, like make sure everything, like we did a big house cleaning the weekend before and went out to Relay for Life, and then you guys came out and was able to just meet everybody. And it was like I said, it was just surreal, like being able to meet people that were there in the trenches founding this chapter, and then now we're we're in their spots. So yeah, it was definitely a great time.
It's really important. I mean, like I said, we go back to the day and we recruited, or I don't even know how we got our first chapter counselor, but it just, he had some stories from the past. And, if there's one good thing about him, there was that, like, okay, he was once where we are, and we could relate to that. And that's, definitely something that Baker and I, thought was missing is that. I mean, sure, there's probably a pile of pictures and nobody knows like who they are or what they mean anymore. But if you can have a person that comes in and can tell a story or can relate, it just gives you a lot more support.
Yeah, for sure.
So I guess wrapping that all together then, after all these years coming back, who are you today because of SIGA? How has SIGA grown you into the person that you are?
So I really wasn't sure what I was going to do when I came to college. I moved my senior year of high school. So my senior year was at a brand new high school. I was familiar with the town, but it was so much bigger than what I knew. And so basically all my college plans I thought were kind of shot, and I had to start over. And my where I came from, I hope this doesn't hurt anybody's feelings, but I was one of the largest Chicago Bears fans. Austin, you're a Bears fan, aren't you?
I mean, I don't watch a lot of football. I watch European football, but I mean, since I'm from Illinois, I guess I can claim I'm a Bears fan, but don't watch them regularly.
So
Jake's the big Bears guy.
Bear down. I don't know what that means. The Bear
I'm a big baseball guy. Sorry.
Well, we should talk baseball. I was just kind of reading an article before I hopped on here, but I digress. Anyway, my dad said, "Well, hey, why don't you go to UW-Platteville? That's where the Chicago Bears trained in the summer for football way back in the day." And it was at the time it was like 2 hours from the Madison area, and I said, "Sure, what the heck." I wanted to go into meteorology. My dad's like, "Oh yeah, Platteville's got meteorology, no problem." And back then we didn't have the internet, and you couldn't really do a thorough job of researching. So I'm like, "All right, I'm going to Platteville." And they didn't have meteorology, so I thought, well, I like computers. I'll pick computer science. That's gonna be my major. And then took my first programming class. I think it was C+, something like that. And I barely got a C. And that was just your introductory opening class. And I'm like, no, the class is only good. This is just not, I don't know. And then I'm like, well, my dad was into business. I'm like, maybe I'll go with business. And so finally got my head wrapped around that and focused on what I wanted to do. I'm going to go into business. Only realizing at the end of my junior into senior year that a lot of the positions that we're hiring were sales, and I said, I'm not a sales guy. I'm not a salesman. I can't do that. But I mean, it kind of all came together my senior year. Getting thrown into a recruiting position for a brand new fraternity that you're trying to sell. Basically, I mean, everybody sells. It just depends on how you define it. Every day you wake up and you go out into public or you interact with somebody, you're selling yourself, or you're selling your what you stand for. So I think that's what a big thing that the fraternity gave me is just initiative. I don't think that came from any kind of textbook or classroom setting. I fully believe it came from Carlson Leadership Academies to just different things that we did to help develop us. So I mean, I think that's kind of where it's got me today. I've been in sales my entire career now, and I'm kind of looking over the hump now, kind of looking down at retirement, which is, oh, Barney, you're like 20 years away. I'm like, yeah, but I'm on the second half of my career, so.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's kind of surprising. Meteorology to start. I didn't even know. I feel like I've never heard that. I've always known you as a sales guy.
Well,
but
I mean, to this day, I'm obsessed with the weather. Not only like storms, but I like to hear about the dew point and how that affects the temperature and the humidity and just anything involved with weather is just intriguing. But you need a lot of math and science, and maybe I don't think I was cut out for math and science. I took some calculus classes at Platteville, and those were tough too.
I mean, it seems like you at least were pretty smart with getting out early when you didn't realize that it wasn't going to work out. Like you were like, I'm done with this. Whereas you could be someone like me who just sticks with it for a while and then finds out halfway through my college career, I'm like, nah, this isn't fit for me. Well, why don't you talk about like so obviously like you're one of the current chapter counselors, maybe how you transition more into that role and kind of your experiences with that.
Yeah, so in 2018, I not only became a trustee, but took on the role of VP of Relations on the ABC board, and it's basically just one step below the president. So when the president is not there, you're basically acting as the guy. Thank goodness Baker was always really good. Maybe there was a time or two where he couldn't absolutely make it, and I had to just wing it. But with that role, there, it's mostly dealing with alumni issues. You're trying to stay in contact with, trying to find lost brothers. You're putting on the events. You're recruiting alumni that are not in the AVC. To kind of grow that to help the undergraduate chapter. And as often as I was coming down to the house, I just had a lot more fun with the younger guys, more of a mentoring role, support role. And we've struggled for a while. It's a tough position for one person to do with everything that goes on in your life and what you need to be involved with. So at the time they tried to split it in two, and I can't remember his name, but they brought somebody else in to help Nick Kirby, and it didn't really work out. And kind of my term was coming up, and I still wanted to be involved, and so kind of stepped into that second position for chapter counselor. And I think the best part of it was this past December, when we did the transition retreat. I mean, that was Nick does an excellent job putting that on. I mean, he's done it for a few years, and I mean, he just shines. So just to be there and interact and just help out, and then the whole COVID thing. Thank goodness we've got the technology where I can be on chapter meetings, remotely, at least listening, but it's still different than being in person. But yeah.
Yeah, I think that is like one of the, I don't want to say like best things that came out of COVID, but like figuring out how to interact online, interact in these kind of meeting styles where we can even do this like virtually from 3 different places and get together. Whereas like, cause I mean, I was kind of, especially going into COVID, like I graduated during COVID and then moved like 6 hours away from everybody. And I was like, how am I supposed to keep in touch with all these people? Like, I felt so isolated, but thankfully we have the technology that we have and we're able to pull that off. So that was, like I said, that was one nice thing that came out of it. So, I mean, obviously you've been with SIG Up now for like 20 plus years. Had lots of different memories, moments from it, but what were some of the more like defining moments that maybe you haven't mentioned yet? So I'm sure that there's plenty that that you would have during your time.
Yeah, and I was trying to think about this, and there's so many that I could pick from. I mean, not very many from when I was in the chapter. I mean, we did a lot of we did a lot of memberhood development. You've got things like this that go on. There's the legend of Barney right there. So,
Just describe what you're doing in this
boxes.
picture.
Well, that's we got a hotel room, and we all what we get, like 20 guys in 2 joining rooms, and people are sleeping in bathtubs and stuff. And I mean, we're just unwinding, having fun. you know. Um,
Mhm.
but was that a defining moment? I don't know. There's several other pictures. I mean, like this one here. This is the first group picture that we ever had. It's hard to see. Maybe you guys will be able to. But there's our chapter counselor on the end there. He's in the tan suit. You know, um, so you could take some of those moments and say, "Oh, yeah, it was a defining moment." But I think a lot of them came when I was alumni. When I'd come back and visit the chapter, or I'd come down to homecoming. Um, there's a couple in particular. Um, One was, I believe it was at the time called Brothers Bar, and Brandon Belk, who's an alumni, and I think a brother, bought the place, and they called it Brothers. There's Brothers on Second Street or something like that. But we were down there for a homecoming, and again having a good time. I'm pretty sure we were doing Jaeger bombs. Always always makes the thought process and stuff go a lot clearer, right?
Maybe.
But I was reminiscing with Jeff Benson, and it was hard to hear the loud music and stuff was going on, but he's like Barney, these guys, they like they really appreciate you. This was years ago. Um, and he just was talking about, you get going so far, you guys will realize this too. Once 5-10 years go by, you don't realize the legacy that you're setting, or the example that you're leaving. And he's like, man, most of this chapters, and there's bloodlines, family tree type thing. And he's like, Barney, like, not, it was 90, 95%, whatever it is of this chapter comes through you. And I'm like, say what? He's like, if you wouldn't have been part of this organization, whoever would have been in your place, or we don't even know how the the legacy would have gone. And man, I'll tell you, that hit me. I remember that. I was like, I'm pretty sure I broke down in tears. I don't know if anybody saw it, but I was just like, I just can't believe what you're telling me. Like, I didn't think anything of it. Um, so that would be one. And the second one, some of these things aren't around anymore, but I'm one for tradition. I'm really nostalgic, is a good way to define my personality. Um, so one of the things I wanted to leave was some traditions, and so for the graduating seniors, when we spoke at our banquet, one of the things I started was called a senior pass down, and I had a hat, a SIGEP hat, and back then we didn't have a lot of apparel. I had a sweatshirt that my mom made me with the Greek letters, and they were in the plaid, and they were sewn on. It was kind of like your old classic um, fraternity or sorority type looking. Um, and so I passed these things down to certain people. Like, I think the hat stood for leadership, so I thought the next leader is whoever, and I gave him the hat. And then whatever what the sweatshirt meant, maybe pride or brotherly love, so that sweatshirt. And of all the things, the sweatshirt made it, oh, I don't even know, maybe 5 or 6 years. And then there was kind of a middle part of our history that not a lot of people like to talk about, kind of the dark days. I don't know if you guys go over that in like the local history or anything like that, but a lot of that passed down stuff stopped. But a couple of lasting legacies that I feel like I've left is the silent auction that we do at banquets. Hopefully, if I remember this right, somebody may correct me. Of course, we'll work it out. But I feel like I put on the first silent auction, and I mean that continues. But everybody does a silent auction. So, and then the other thing that it just kind of dawned on me at the last banquet that we just had here in the spring was the singing. And that was a big thing when we were getting started. It was like, oh, hey, we have a book of songs. And I think there was a CD and or maybe it was a cassette tape back then, but I thought maybe it was on a CD. And, so some of the songs we learned. And then when I went down to Conclave, I actually went down to Conclave in 1997. And this is a coaster that they gave out. Yeah, it's dated 1997. Plenty of stories from that, but I actually went down there. I participated in the choir, the Conclave choir. So we got to learn some of these songs, and it's learn about the songs. And so I brought that back to the chapter. I think, after, again, I bring up a few names here and there, some of them repeatedly, but I think like after Jeff Benson had left, I know I think he participated in one of the choirs, maybe the men's choir or university choirs on campus. He was a good singer. So you got to kind of have that person, someone that's going to step up and be like, oh, hey, I can sing and I can lead you guys, or I can teach you this. So yeah, I guess those would be the couple maybe defining moments.
So wrapping it all around together, is there any advice you'd like to give to the folks out there watching? Anyone in the undergrads, any alumni?
I thinking about this question, I wrote something down really quick, and I was going to change it, and I thought, maybe someone can make sense of it. And the advice I would give are the 3 L's. L as in Larry, and or L as in, I don't know, lady.
Is Larry one of the first L's?
The first piece of advice is Larry. Yeah. You need to find somebody named Larry and just get to know him, right? I thought it was going to this podcast like off its wheels, but you guys like kept it right on the tracks. I'm like, man, you guys are good at this. So the first one would be
job.
Job security.
That's what we're hoping for.
Hey, I want to be a podcaster too. You don't suppose that there's going to be like a secondary SIGET podcast. So there's going to be like the North and the South, and like whose podcast is better, and who, it's like the when the WWE was against the WCW back in the late 90s, the wrestling wars, and who had the biggest names, and who, like who's going to have the best guest, like who's going to follow Barney, like now I'm derailing it right here. See,
hey, no worries. This is one large conversation.
I hope that we don't get into like a feud with another podcast. I mean, we haven't looked into it too much, but I mean, I'm just hoping that like we don't get like flagged for anything from like nationals or something for doing stuff, but I don't think that's gonna happen.
Do they have to review this before you go live with it?
No. I mean, no, we're doing this all on our own. That's why it's not an official one. But I mean, I'm sure we've had some people from nationals that have like listened to it a bit. So I mean, I don't think it's a big deal. I'm just like, if somebody's like, you guys can't do this anymore, I mean, oh well. We'll find something else to transition into.
Well, so then you gotta follow Barney with Tom Barton. That would be probably the trump card right there.
I
But
mean, we know Tom
I'll get
listens
back.
to this, so he better be hearing this right now. You have to reach out to us to come get on.
Well, I'm certainly looking forward to who reaches out, or who I hear from. But I'll get back to my advice. But I wanted to maybe um, just talk a little bit about, like, how you've put this podcast together, and like potential uh, guests. And like I said, I'm my favorite number is 4. So again, being the fourth one on here,
We
I
didn't even
could care
set that up
less.
like that. That just happened.
Actual coincidence. This is why it's your favorite number.
Or was it? Ooh.
Well, and hopefully it's not like, well, I don't want to do that silly thing. But now maybe you've got them lined up. Like, someone's going to get a hold of you, and it's going to be like, hey, I want to correct Barney, so make sure I'm on the next podcast. I need to, he's giving false news and things like that. But I think if you guys want like a potential list of ideas, I mentioned Tom Barton. He's got to be on your short list.
He's on there.
And I kind of want to do this with the next two guys here. I want to do like $100 bounty type thing. And so if either of these two guys like accept, I'll put up $100, and then whoever you get from those two, they decide where they want to donate that $100. Right. So if they want to say, all right, Barney, we're going to take your $100 and we're going to throw it towards the ABC, or we want to throw it to the undergrads. We want to invest in education. We want to buy something for the undergraduates. We want to do a small scholarship. We want to donate it to another cause on behalf of Sigma Phi Epsilon, UW Platinum. Then if you get them on there, they decide where the money goes. I'll go there. Maybe they throw up a bounty. Maybe the next one's like, all right, well, you got to get this guy, and if you get him, it's $200, or maybe it just stays at $100. Maybe it's a traveling $100, type thing. But let's see if we can get it started. So the first name is an obvious one. I think he watches these podcasts because he doesn't. I don't know. Besides football season, I don't know what he does down there in Atlanta, Georgia. But Jeff Benson would be a grand slam for something like this, because of all the people, we go back, my colony days, his group of guys, the guys he was associated with, I feel like that was the group that really took us to the next level. And man, he's got stories, and he like knows everybody. He's smart as a whip. So write that one down. That would be your second one.
I got you.
The other $100 one. This is a really good one. Nobody speaks of this guy, but out of everybody, I feel like in my mind, he's probably one of the most successful alumni to come out of Wisconsin Theta, and quietly, but again, a great guy, and that would be Matt Smith. So utilize your connections. Maybe you guys are friends on Facebook, or I'm sure there's people listening. Maybe both of these guys are. I have no idea. It's going to be interesting. They might be crickets. Like, oh, you did a podcast? Like, really?
I mean,
Anyway.
you're calling them out right now, so I mean, the challenge is laid down. Get in contact. We'll be reaching out to some people.
It's it's all documented. It's all right from the horse's mouth.
Yep.
Anyway, my advice. Live, laugh, and love. Those three L's. Live, laugh, and love. And I think it's just simple. It's like, don't forget to live your life. Like, it's not all about work. It's not all about seriousness. If there's something you want to do, like, don't let it hold you back. I mean, like I said, I've come a long way. I'm over the hump. I'm looking down at retirement. It's like, have I done everything that I really wanted to do? I don't want to save that until I'm old and gray and can't move around, because maybe some of that stuff I can't do. So laugh. Like, there was a thing on the radio. I don't know the exact number, but it was like on a quiz show for a radio station. And they said, like, kids do this like 300 times a day and adults do it like 15. And, finally someone said the right answer, and it's laugh. And, well, until you get Barney on your podcast, and then you got everybody just, you know what I mean? Like,
I guess that's true.
again, it's like, try not to be all serious. I mean, have some fun. It's about, so enjoy it, laugh, and love. I mean, it's probably the secret to life. And if you don't think that you don't need it, it doesn't have to be somebody romantically. It's just like showing love to your neighbor or somebody less fortunate, or, call your mom or dad, like I probably should. So, but yeah, I mean, simple advice.
Simple advice is always good advice, though. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, literally any tidbit helps. Like, obviously, you said I was thinking about not doing this one, but I mean, you never know. Whatever, somebody might click with it.
And you know what? Any advice, someone might need that. Someone might need to hear live, laugh, love.
Mm-hmm.
So,
We're talking to all you undergrads. Call your parents while you're in college. They care for you.
So, as we're wrapping it out, is there anything you'd like to share with the world? Let us know what's going on in your life.
Yeah, and I guess that's probably part of, like, who I am. Some of the stuff I didn't really get to. So I'm, one half of the chapter counselor, with the Wisconsin Theta chapter. I'm a dad. My son Owen, we had some big plans for him to come down to Platteville, but unfortunately COVID, kind of had some other plans for him. But he's 20 years old, and my daughter is soon to be 14. Yeah, she's going to be 14 in September. She's strongly looking at Platteville as many times as we've been down there. I'm avid sports card collector. Maybe some of you have run into some of my posts on Facebook, and I apologize. I don't mean to not, you got to post in these groups, and it's like, well, your friends have to see it. Well, I don't want my friends to see it. Well, then we can't post. So, I think I've lost a few friends that way. They're like, they don't want to see that stuff. I'm in a 2.5-year relationship with Consuelo. I think both you guys met her down at Banquet. She's been down to Platteville a few times. It's, the longest relationship I've been in since I was married. So it's, I never thought I would be in this position. Wasn't really looking for it, but it's really not my life to live. There's somebody else, in control out there. So, been truly blessed with that. And I'm still selling building materials. I work for ABC Supply Company. Got about 850 locations nationwide. There's one down in Dubuque, so pretty close to Platteville. So I mostly work with contractors. getting them the material for their projects, helping them bid projects, and going out again and basically recruiting new customers to come, shop with us. So I'm still recruiting.
Awesome. I mean, it's glad to have that. Glad to have you, and we're glad that, like I said, you were able to kind of step back into our lives. So back in 2018, and now look where we're at now. You're joining us on this podcast that we've talked about for a couple of years.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. I mean, I look back at you guys and just watching you, when we first met, and Dom, especially you, your senior year as an undergrad, man, you completely blossomed, from the person that I thought you were to the person dynamic and just engaging and fun, and I enjoyed listening to you and seeing you sometimes in the chapter meetings. It was I mean, it was just great. So in Austin, I mean, the recruiting powerhouse, and then what you passed on basically to Dawson. I mean, just between the two of you guys, it's just been, I mean, phenomenal. So, and now here you are, you join the ranks of the alumni, and hopefully you guys are, well, Austin, you have to be paying ABC member. Dom, are you?
Yeah.
Good.
Time's coming up soon, but we'll get there. So,
I mean, Dom, you got to talk about your new position with the ABC.
I'm helping out Will Michaels with events now. I'm it really funny enough started as I'm looking into moving to Madison area. I had another interview and walkthrough with a place. Funny enough, I don't know if you would sell to them, but they're I don't really know much about the construction industry yet, but KL Engineering is who I'm looking at right now. They're over in Fitchburg. They do a lot of.
I was going to say, do they do any building themselves, or are they more or less like, hey, we're going to design the plans or look over plans? Or
they're more on the designing the plans, and that's what I would be doing, is sending out the proposals. So they're more on the design side, I guess, rather than the actual building itself.
So you for sure are coming to the Madison area?
Oh, if I get this job or not, regardless, I'm going to come to Madison is the end goal. Rice Lake's fun and all, but Madison is definitely where I've always wanted to be.
Man, and I'll tell you what a natural fit to help you with events. I mean, you're going to completely take that to a whole new level.
I agree. It's like the perfect fit. And we just happened to have the opening, so that's gonna be exciting to have you helping out with that. Speaking of which, we still got some open positions in the ABC positions. So if somebody's interested in doing scholarship or fundraising, hit up myself. You can hit up Dom. You can hit up Mark. You can hit up Baker. We just need people that want to do some stuff.
Yeah, and even if you don't want to take on a position role, you can, if you feel like a stranger, if you feel like an outcast, and even if you want to reach out to me, I can introduce you to a whole lot of people in a hurry. I'm talking within the chapter. I'm talking undergraduates. I'm talking other alumni. If you've been, lost, or you've been, wherever you've been, and it's no big deal. It's, maybe you're just a financial supporter. Maybe you just want to, I don't know, contribute an article to a newsletter. Whatever it is, there's something that you can help these guys with. You want to be with the older guys, or you want to be with the younger guys? Let us know. We're starting to get a few more parents, involved, especially in the ABC. And I really wish that would, kind of take off too. Have that parent base, that have maybe seen their kids go through it 3 or 4 years, and they know what it's all about. And so now they've got the passion as well.
Mm-hmm. We're definitely starting to get there. I mean, we've got 3 parents involved currently, and so it's a very exciting time. Lots of stuff going on. But yeah, if I guess if nobody really has anything else, we can close it out here. Thank you again, Barney, so much for being able to come on and just share your stories. Like we said,
Yeah, it was nice talking with you. We enjoyed it.
Yeah, like I said at the beginning, I mean, you've been involved with this for so long now. Like we're definitely gonna have to do a follow-up podcast somewhere down the road where we can talk more about stuff. Like I knew that you collected sports cards. I wanted you to share some stories about that. So we'll have to do a follow-up where you kind of talk to us about some of those other little niche areas of your life.
Well, just real quick as we close it out, like I said before I hopped on here, I was reading an article. One of the biggest baseball stars of this generation right now is Mike Trout. He plays for the Los Angeles Angels. And there was an article where apparently he's injured, and a doctor has just diagnosed him with a special back disease that, I guess, from what I understand, once you have it, you're going to get worse and worse. And so the topic was brought up: if Mike Trout's career ended today, would he be in the Hall of Fame? Yes or no? And so I was just reading all the different, comments about the stats and just different things like that. So it's quite interesting. You can probably Google it, but it was on my Facebook feed probably because I'm all things baseball cards right now. So yeah, we can get into that later time. Like I said, if you want to team me up with somebody, pull me in with somebody else, I'll do that. So
Awesome. Yeah, like I said, thank you again for hopping on, and we'll definitely talk about some collabs in the future because that would be a good opportunity. And like I said, even if we could imagine the founding group in a podcast together, I'm sure you guys would be bouncing off each other the whole time.
You guys, yeah, we'll just let us run it. You guys can interject.
Go right ahead. Dom and I would be spectators in that one. Just let you guys talk.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for episode 4. Thank you everybody for listening to this one, and if you have any recommendations or anything that you guys want to give to us, you can reach out to Dom, you can reach out to myself. We've already taken some recommendations to heart and started upgrading some stuff like my lighting and my fan. So it needed to happen, and I think it works pretty well. So but yeah, subscribe to the YouTube channel. You guys see it, you'll get the notifications when that stuff. Obviously we post to the website, post to the Facebook page when we get new episodes, and
as the old saying goes, like, comment, subscribe.
Yep.
Those post notifications.
And then the last thing I'm gonna put on here, Benson, Matt Smith, you guys, Barney laid out the challenge. You've been called out. So I'm sure we'll reach out to you guys too. But if you listen to this first and reach out to us before we get to you, Barney's throwing out the challenge. So let's see if we can get you guys on. That'd be awesome. Or if you're listening to this and can get into contact with them, that'd be awesome. I'll let you go, Barney.
Oh, I was just gonna say real quick. Anybody could talk to Benson about anything. Like I said, he's just so charismatic and everything like that. Besides everything I already said, and Matt Smith, I haven't talked to him for such a long time, but like I said, I think one of the most successful of the chapter, and I think just a unique perspective. So
for sure,
I hope he's
yeah. We hope so too. We were kind of surprised with how far out this has been reaching people. So, who knows? We can't see specifically who all watches it, but there could be some surprises in there. So,
and I hope I don't have like a former classmate or something that comes on here and be like, "Hey, remember when you stole my lunch money back in the 2nd grade? Well, I saw your podcast, Barney, huh? No wonder I couldn't find you."
Maybe that's the collab we do. You with whoever you were born in elementary school. Well, yeah. Like I said, thank you again, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.